So let's all stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
We'll accommodate.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, excellent. So, changes to the agenda. We do have one request to move the action item number 8, the boys ice hockey co-op, to move that up so that one of our staff members can get out of here a little bit earlier, which seems reasonable. We know we've got lots of other responsibilities ahead. So if there are no objections, I'd like to move that up after public comments and before the student representative's superintendent's report. All right, very good. So I think we're ready for public comments. And Juno, how are we doing with people who are connected to the
Yes, so we have 6 people on right now
okay.
remotely. So
All right,
6
very
remote, 2
good.
in person.
Well, we thank those who are here online watching, and we did make one small change to our agenda. We're going to move action item 8 up to the beginning. And Juno, if you want to start with public comments.
All right. So in order to make a public comment, you just have to raise your hand. If you are in person, obviously you can use your hand to do that. If you are remote, there's a hand raise feature at the bottom of your screen. You press that and I'll be able to acknowledge you. If you could just use your first name, your last name, and your town of residence in order to make your public comment, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm working on getting the public comment policy up on the screen while we give people a chance to potentially make a comment. All right, I'm not seeing anybody at this time. As a reminder, we do have 2 public comment sessions, one now and one towards the end of the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you, Juno. So we do have a student representative nominated to join us. She's not here with us tonight, but we hope to have her joining us in the coming weeks.
Do we know who it is?
Hmm?
No, can we say who it is?
Yes. Ruben, do you remember?
Yeah, so if we're going to superintendent's report,
Yes.
we have a student representative, Madison Belafonto, senior. And so she did send an email, regrets not being here tonight, but she will be here at the next one is what she's planning.
Okay, great. And then before we go into your report, I think we're gonna move we're gonna let you
Oh, that's what you meant by putting it up front.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
great.
You've
really been bumped, huh?
Wow,
You got bumped in front of the superintendent.
I tried, Heather.
Have me stay, right?
Yeah, well,
So it's been a long process. But you know, the Conant way is never to quit. So last spring, we asked and spoke about us co-oping with Hollis Brookline and Derryfield for our boys hockey. Unfortunately, there's all kinds of things about divisions, and adding us would have moved them up a division, and they didn't want that. So I had plenty of discussion with the executive director of the NHIA and have continued to pursue a school that made a little bit more sense for us as far as that everybody, Fall Mountain, Conval, Monadnock, and Keene and ourselves always have played out of Keene Ice. I had a meeting with all of the athletic directors so that eventually that we would get into something. And Keene stepped up and said that they would be interested in us joining in a co-op with them. The one thing that we want to talk about is if that you want to give approval to, but also that they have petitioned up to play the Division I. And our numbers, when we add to Keene, somehow in some, I don't really know, NHIA rule thing, it would actually potentially bump us down to D2, which Keene's not interested in playing D2. So it's an interesting thing. So I think the NHIA can see past themselves, I think, a little bit. So we just want to make sure, and I want to make sure that you guys see it and approve it, that if everything goes well with a meeting with the NHIA, the ice hockey committee, that we could form a co-op with Keene.
So am I understanding correctly that they're currently a D1 or they're petitioning to be a D1?
They were approved to be Division I, yes.
But adding our school brings them oddly down to D2.
Welcome to the world of the NHIA.
And that's exactly what they're trying to stay away from. So you're still trying to see what they want to do.
Keene wants us with them, and they didn't think that there would be any way that the NHIA would say, why would you bump us down? Like, and they want us, and their numbers are there. They feel very comfortable because, as you know, in a co-op, you can't cut.
Sure.
They have a varsity and they have a JV program, and where their numbers are, they feel very comfortable with having us. And again, I had the meeting to say that, it's time that all of us in this region and nobody can, it still would make more sense with the NHIA to form a 4-team co-op, but that's not happening. So out of the 5 schools, Keene has stepped up, and it makes sense for us. And again, it doesn't change anything for our parents. That is the rink that we were playing at, practicing at.
Mhm. Thank you for looking into that so much, Heather. A lot of kids want to play, I think.
We do. I mean, even with the unknowing, we already have at least 3 kids already signed up. So
Very cool.
and I've got more emails with the question, is it going to happen? So
Okay.
so if I say yes, we'll have.
Perfect.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
So Heather, what do you need from the school board with this?
You guys as a school board approved that us joining a co-op with Keene, understanding the direction of where Keene is. We would play under they would be the host school. We'd still be paying to play. It's based on the fees, what the ice time is, the officials, those kind of things. They base it on per player for their players, even though their school pays for it, but per player and what it would cost our parents.
I will make a motion to approve after Charlie's question.
Will there be a documented agreement between Keene and Conville?
Keene and Conan.
Keene and Conan,
Yes.
excuse me.
Yes. So, and again, we've set,
So will that agreement require school board approval?
well, this is the agreement that we will go into a co-op with Keene.
So
As the-
essentially the state and everybody else is going to want the Conan School Board to support it, correct?
Yes, this is what I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for the support that you,
So if we gave you our intent to move forward with this pending the agreement? Would that be sufficient? In other words, we've got to approve agreement anyway.
I guess, what agreement are you looking into?
Um,
Because the agreement for us to join with them is as the host school, just like when we were with Conval. For,
Something that has to be in writing that says who's gonna do what about injuries, who's gonna accept responsibility for liability, who's gonna take care of the rent costs. All those things, okay, need to be documented someplace as to what the Conant share is gonna be.
so that is correct. So Keene takes on that responsibility to have us there. So we've sent in the documentation that we needed to the NHIA that the NHIA asked for that goes with them. So it's asking whose athletic policies do you fall under? So it falls under Keene. Keene takes on all the money, the revenue, and then like I said, then they will charge us and they will show you us that. They will take on how many students that there are, what the costs are, and then they would be billing us for that, which the parents would be paying on those kind of things. So everything falls under the host school, just like it was when we were playing with.
So from our perspective, it's like the football team, a member of ours, student body, joining a football team like Pop Warner or something like that, because we don't have anything to do with it.
Correct, but that's not how we're going to treat it. I'd still share in when I came aboard with Conval, I would set if Keene couldn't supervise and be an administrator at the hockey rink, then you have to have an administrator at the hockey rink. So I would share in that responsibility too, to be a part
So
of
do
it.
you have that document? Do you have that agreement in writing?
And overseeing.
Do you have that agreement in writing, or is it just,
I guess it's
Gentleman's
hard to put,
agreement.
you're right, it's hard to put it because we can't move forward unless we agree because, and then we can talk to Keene, but we have to have the NHIAA say yes, even before we're gonna get to that stage.
I have no opposition whatsoever to what you want to do. I have no opposition whatsoever to taking some action tonight. I just want to know whether it's going to be documented or not. And if so, who's going to prove it? That's all.
We will have documentation, yes, in an agreement from Keene. Yes,
And the school board will approve it.
their school board has to approve.
Their school board, how about ours?
And us,
Okay.
Yes.
That's the question I was asking.
okay, yes.
Okay. So go ahead.
So just go with what I was saying,
Yeah, we want to,
prove to become a co-op with Keene for ice
it's
hockey.
our intent, absolutely.
So you have made a motion.
Yes,
Could you just,
And that if we have to play at Division 1, that we would play at Division.
okay. I'll try this again. I'd like to make a motion to approve that Conant High School joins the boys hockey agreement with Keene High School in Division 1 to be played with our school
Is it just this school year?
For this year.
For
for
the,
this
for
school
the
year.
school year?
Is that good?
I'll second that. You
Yeah.
worked hard for it. I'll second it.
okay, so thank you, Kim, and thank you, Christina. So, are there more discussion or questions?
I just have one more question, just a quick one. Are the girls playing hockey and are they all set?
Yes, girls hockey is still in their co-op with Conval.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Just wanted to check. Thank you.
And I just wanna just make sure I understand the answer to Charlie's question. You're gonna have an agreement. Assuming we approve this, you will enter into an agreement. Will you be bringing that agreement back to the board for us to?
Sign off on it.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
It
that's
kinda-
it's two different things.
Yeah, I was
So what
gonna
he's
say.
talking about. Once we get the approval and the NHIA says yes, then we would get into the agreement with Keene.
We first need to know that we want to play with them.
First, we have to
And the,
all
the school
be
board
on
allows it.
board with team to go to the NHIA. So that's what we have to work on first. So then when they approve us, now we could say no, like Keene all of a sudden says, oh, and by the way, it's gonna cost you $5,000 per person. We're gonna be like,
Yeah, I think
Correct.
that's what was being
Right.
asked, so.
yes, so that's right, but this is to say that both schools, both school boards have said that. Please give us the right to play as a co-op
Okay,
for this season. They say yes, now we can say to Keene, like, what are the parameters, what, then, yes,
okay,
okay?
good, thank you.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions, then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Carry 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess now we'll pass over the superintendent's report. No, actually, it's the superintendent. Sorry. just
That's okay.
trying to insert a-
Pass it over. All right. So for the next half hour, what? No, so I've already said that Madison Bellafato is going to be our student representative. And that she had indicated that she couldn't be here tonight, but that she would be. And looking forward to it. In athletics, all of our fall teams made the playoffs. This year, right? Am I correct? I don't, maybe not the golf.
Well, golf
Made it.
killed it. They were top 6 in Division 3, and we will have one play in the states, and he came in. Division 3, he was right up there, about 8, overall 54. The only team that did not make the tournament was volleyball.
Volleyball, that's correct. Yep, but volleyball had a full season.
Volleyball had a full season and had the JV team.
Yep.
Yep.
And in its second year.
Yep. So
And then all the other teams, soccer teams, the field hockey team.
Yep.
Made the playoffs and went further than they had. in the
Soccer
past. Yep.
and field hockey did very well in the playoffs and ended up all 3 lost to Guilford.
Those are intense.
Yeah, at different levels.
Mhm.
We had cross country, Bella Nero just came in, she came in 7th for Division 3.
In the state of New Hampshire, right?
And then she, yeah. So she just came in the MOCs and did
Yeah.
very, very well too. Our middle schooler, Olivia Richards. Killed it and won the state cross country.
Oh.
And yes, we had an exceptional middle school too, had a great year.
Yeah.
Yes, athletics did very, very well. And boys soccer obviously went the furthest that they've ever done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And in the arts, we'll have a play. The Witch's Princess is November 17th and 18th, so not far from now. And tomorrow we have parent-teacher conferences across the district. Also during that time, there will be some CPI training, some CPR training, and some curriculum planning that will be at different points of the day. With various groups. So the curriculum planning will be mostly for the elementary. That will be the second part of some other work that we had already done. That is tied with budgetary presentations later on as well. Yeah.
I know I asked you this earlier, but could you just very briefly explain what the CPI training is and why we're doing it?
Sure. Well, CPI is Crisis Prevention Institute, I believe it is. And so it's a training. We have a couple individuals who are on our staff who are trainers. And so they have been training. We will most likely look to get more trainers within the district so that we can increase the level of training within our district over the next year. And so CPI is a company that provides an approach to recognizing when individuals, it could be adults or kids, but usually it's this, we're talking about kids, are dysregulated, perhaps in crisis. And that would be to look at that, look at the body language, listen to how the tone at which someone is speaking, what the person is saying, how their body is positioned and so forth. There could be a variety of other behaviors to recognize that and be able to de-escalate or help de-escalate that behavior. Sometimes we as individuals unintentionally can actually miss those signs and actually help escalate behavior. And so by trying to do something nice, like talk to a learner and say, oh, is there anything I can do to help you right now? When the child doesn't really, like, talking to that child is not the right thing to do. You need to give that person time. So that's an example. There's two modules of CPI. There's the de-escalation, which is what we want everyone trained in. How you speak, how you position your body. For instance, another example of that would be if I don't want to have Christine get really upset or anything like that, and I have to have a conversation with her that is a little bit more difficult, I might position myself exactly how we are right now, as opposed to being face to face with the individual. So there's certain proven strategies that we would want people to understand when communicating or in a setting or situation with another individual to help them out.
Thank you.
There's also a second module for some, not all, to learn how to properly restrain individuals if there's a need to do so. That's for the safety and well-being of that child, or sometimes for the safety well-being of other children as well.
Great, thank you. I know many of the members of our community are aware that we're working with sometimes very challenging situations, and I appreciate that. So,
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
Oh, absolutely. No shortage of challenging situations. And then we also have CPR as well. About 30 to 40 individuals are getting some training in CPR, just to make sure that they're certified. For the safety and wellness of our learners and other individuals in the school, but also so that we're able to go on our field trips and go on walking field trips. And of course, all of our coaches have to have that, and the people in the child care center need to have that updated and make sure that we are all ready if there were to be any sort of a situation, an emergency. And then, of course, the curriculum planning that will continue on. I would call it 5-year curriculum planning, which is just really focused on identifying the processes and the purchases and the professional development that we would need to have in order to really strengthen our elementary learning. So that all the processes of, like, the learning management system, how we grade, how we do everything aligns K through 12, but also that we have the resources and the training needed to best instruct our learners in a variety of topics at the elementary level, so that there's continuity between the two schools, and supporting when they filter in to the middle school.
Right.
Another item that's happening tomorrow is a small gathering, that, as far as we are aware of anyway, but the second meeting of the community schools will be tomorrow night. We have 2 sessions trying to give people a couple different options. So we have about 5 or 6 people signed up for tomorrow, another 5 or 6 people signed up for next Tuesday, I think. Same conversation, but taking the 6 themes that we were able to get out of our first grants conversation around birth through 8 with the community and some of the parents, and also the community organizations in Keene and Peterborough and Jaffrey that came, and then trying to find our next steps, what we want to do to take and maybe develop some small pilot programs that we could collect data on for the purposes of really doing something good with the grant that we were given. And I think we'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, thank you. It's maybe not a long report, but full of very significant significant things. Does anybody have any questions for Ruben about his report or any of the items? Okay, so not seeing any. Thank you, Ruben. And I think we are now ready for our consent agenda. So would anyone like to make a motion? Charlie?
I'd like to remove the request for waiver of facility fees. Hold on separately.
That's the request to waive facility fees.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. So we'll remove them and deal with them separately. And, are there any other? Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was motion, never mind.
No, go ahead.
If. Was that just a motion or a just removal of that part?
I don't think we need to do a motion to remove. We'll still deal with them just separately.
Okay.
But we do need a motion for the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Okay, thank you, Daisy.
Second.
Okay, and Charlie jumps in. Thank you, Charlie, for the second. And I'd just like to say that the consent agenda includes approval of manifests, field trips. We've got 3 field trips planned for later in the year, several retirements, which we as a board are acknowledging, and also resignations. And there's a donation and several budget transfers, and then the approval of winter coaches. Acknowledgement of receipts. So these are all part of this, and I mention it because the question has been put to me by members of the public who, were curious what, how were their items dealt with, and these are all included in the consent agenda. All the board members have had a chance to look at the consent agenda, and where there's documentation to look at that too. So.
I'm just gonna ask real quick, the New Orleans, is that, I was looking at that and it's just kind of like a vague, are there students going on this, or is this like does anybody know anything about this?
I think this is approval so that students can start signing up.
Okay. Okay. And then, the coaching, we talked about how the middle school, the only one I'm seeing right this minute that's missing is the middle school boys, that I should, but that's just in process still. They're interviewing, they just haven't found anybody yet. Okay.
They have people interested in
Interesting.
the position, and she's been interviewing.
Perfect, okay. That's good to know. There was one other question. Oh, I guess it wasn't really a question. I don't know everybody, but I do see that Patty Arvidsson is on this as resigning. I think she's amazing. And I'm so thankful she was here. So I just want to say I'm sad to see her go.
Yep.
I loved having her here.
And for those who have not met Patty, Patty is one of the individuals who is in the very front. So when you come in here during the school day, Patty would be one of the individuals greeting you. Or not letting you in. Either way.
I'm always on the phone with you, giving you all the information that you need or finding it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Just amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
I would also like to, there's 2 retirements on the consent agenda, 2 very remarkable teachers who've been at JGS for quite a while, and I want to thank them for all their years of dedication, and that we'll miss them. Those are pretty significant teachers to
And
retire.
still have time to pull those retirements back if they want.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
For sure.
And Mrs. Meehan started the STEM special this year, which is, I think, has been going well.
It's been a good implementation.
That's great. All of them, resignations and retirements.
Well, thank you for those comments, both of you.
Mhm.
This is always one of those places where we do a lot of our business in the consent agenda, and a lot of times there are significant things included in there, and so.
Right, and you're right, people don't know when we just say, oh, we approve the consent agenda, it's pretty broad. So it is good, I guess, to kind of mention some stuff and to look at it. For the public.
Right. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, then I'd call the motion and say all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, and that gets approved 7-0. So thank you, everybody. And that brings us to a discussion over remote days and snow days.
No,
Do
but
you want to deal with the recreation fees?
Yes, of course. Sorry, and thank you for mentioning that. So, a request to waive facility fees, Range Recreation Department. Are there any questions or comments?
These are these like all those things that we've been talking about for them to request for, okay. Basketball.
Okay.
Ready?
If not, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to request to approve the waive of facilities fees
Yeah.
for Ringe Travel Basketball and after-school karate on the dates noted.
Thank you, Lisa. And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Is there any further discussion or questions?
I have a question. I don't remember if I'm right on this, but wasn't there something with the? I'm probably gonna mess this up, but something with karate, charging there's something weird. Has that been resolved?
We have not resolved it yet.
Like, we're not charging,
It
but
may,
they're
it may be, it may
charging.
be resolved, but
Okay,
it depends on how you look at it. So we don't have our MOUs with the two towns developed yet.
okay,
So I am meeting with the town of Ringe, a selected person and possibly the town manager this Wednesday relative to some other financial topics, which I'm hoping to be able to solidify a date to meet. So I missed the first meeting date that we had set up.
And so then
to
that-
discuss the MOU. Yeah.
okay, and so will that money issue be resolved? Like, that was just a weird,
But we'll have a conversation about it and we'll discuss this. I mean, this maintains everything status quo is what this does right here.
okay,
It's except that now you're seeing what the usage is, which I don't think, prior to this year, we had seen
Yeah.
what the usage
And,
was.
and I would like to just throw in that the scenario for that particular policy change really had nothing to do with karate. It's just karate and basketball and the sports happen to be ones that we would see this affect a great deal on, but it really was outliers, really wasn't ones that directly affected our students specifically. Those were never a real question of, do we have to change policy due to them? That really wasn't like, they're not a drop in the bucket, so it really was other outlying things that we wanted to make sure we're watching. So this makes it more transparent for us to see when people are using it, but there was never a question that anything with the karate was at all questionable about having it or the fees, anything like that. So I just want to make sure that's clear in the minutes that was everything's in good shape with it. It just, this is affected by the policy as well as other areas that we were watching.
Yeah, and I just said, the policy committee did a lot of work on this and brought this forward in conjunction with the facilities director and looking at the use. And there were a couple of questions that came up and there were legitimate questions, and that's why we decided to have memorandum of understanding, so their questions can be asked and answers given, and we know we're fulfilling our responsibilities. Yeah, but thank you, Kim, for bringing that up, and Lisa, for you for providing that update and the information. All right, so there being no more questions, all those in we have a second, right? Do we have a motion in a second?
Yeah.
Yes, we're all set. Thank you, Juno. Very appreciate it. You're keeping track. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None? So all set.
Abstain.
Hmm?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, so we're 6-0-1 on that one. Thank you. Okay. So. Moving on then to the discussion of remote days and snow days, and we can feel the weather changing and know that those days will be coming up. So, Ruben, do you want to initiate that discussion?
Oh, yeah. So this is an exciting time of year for us all. My favorite time. Can't get enough of calling snow days or remote days or whatever in the morning time. But so a little more seriously, it's over the past couple of years, we have put into policy, and one that we do year by year because things change, perceptions change, ideas change, all that kind of stuff. About how we handle remote days and snow days. And so the last time we did a survey, we had presented that the majority of individuals that had answered, and there were several hundred individuals who answered, indicated that, and it was about 65 to 70%, about 70% indicated that they wanted to have at least some remote days. It was evenly split between those who wanted no remote days, some who wanted to have all remote days. Then you had the bigger chunk in the middle who had wanted some, either both, like kind of in the middle. And so we actually had quite a few snow days last year, partly because you can't have a remote day when the electricity is out. So we had some inclement weather. We really call them inclement weather days, where you didn't have a choice anyway. You needed to have no school on these days. But we were able to have a couple days that were remote, and that gives you an opportunity to not have to press forward further into the school year, and also to give our learners an experience that that's not bad for them to have, since we do live in the 21st century and so many more learning options are done remotely. Having a little bit of that within their high school, middle school, and even elementary setting is certainly not something that is bad. Would we want it to be continuously, like all the time? I think we learned during the COVID experience that is not what is in the best interest of our children or our staff long term. And so, so the discussion tonight is really just, I will bring back next time a policy. The policy would look extremely similar to what we did last year, what we already have, I think, on our website, and maybe change the dates a little bit. The idea of interim remote days, which would be, we typically, when we do remote, we have a 2-hour delay to allow for people to get ready for their day. If there is a need for that, that's giving planning time, giving people time to travel somewhere if they need to, giving people time to, rest up and be ready for the day and have a concentrated learning day. And then, of course, a snow day, which is a no school day, basically. And to be able to use judgment to say, what's the best, best approach. Yeah. And if you're going to, the idea of the remote day was you wanted to have some idea ahead of time that it was likely to take place, or it was a good chance that it was going to take place, not just call it immediately. Now, there are some districts in the area that go and do all snow days, that they've chosen to do that. Likewise, there's definitely at least one school in the area that does all remote days whenever they possibly can. So we've chosen to be blended the last 2 years. Didn't know if anyone had any other strong feelings on these. Yes.
Yeah. I have some strong feelings.
Okay.
One is that the last school day impacts the graduation day.
Mhm.
And we need to be able to manage that through our use of snow days and remote days. And I think the best person to do that, as I said last year, is the superintendent, given the guidelines of the state DOE relative to remote days. And put the burden on the superintendent to figure out what he needs to do to have the mixture of the two to satisfy the audiences and still allow people to make arrangements for graduation day well in advance.
Thank you, Charlie. Good points. Good points. Thank you. Christine?
Well, I think that it has been handled very well in the last couple of years. I feel like you've always made the right call when it said beautiful, deep, perfect sledding snow. It tends to be a snow day. And when it's just kind of that yucky stuff, it's a remote day. I mean, in my opinion, I'm sure that's not your thought
That's
process.
more or less how we try to do it, unless we had a ridiculous amount of that fluffy snow. Then it's like, all right, we got. But if we have a ridiculous amount, then we might be forced to anyway, because the heavier that, electrical lines go, and if you don't have any connectivity, you can't do a whole lot. And we're really not interested in across the district and doing what I think used to be called blizzard bags, which is putting a bunch of things together, sending home some work for people to do and then turn it back in. Some of that needs to take place at various levels of the organization, grade levels, maybe that is more appropriate than using an instrument and a Chromebook or something. Or it might be supplemental to that, but we want to make sure that there's a good learning experience if you're going to count it as a school day.
Good. Makes sense. Yes.
I understand that sometimes when we live in rural areas, it's difficult to access Wi-Fi, including for our families, but also for the teachers. And I'm wondering if we've ever considered making hotspots available for teachers if we anticipate a remote day for anyone who might have unreliable Wi-Fi at home.
Yeah, it is actually something that's been brought to our attention recently, and I think that we had hotspots during the time of COVID, certainly, and they were always utilized. We definitely would want to be able to hand them out. Not as much. This is not as much of an issue with adults as it is with our learners, but to hand them out and then put them back as well. We've found that sometimes the hotspot, the usage was utilized for non-school issues, which is fine, except that if that's all it was used for, it took up all the bandwidth that was for the purpose of what we were doing. So we'd have to manage it well, and we have to go and get some quotes again on how to do it, because it's been a couple of years since we've gone and put that together. But you have a good point.
Yeah, very interesting. Are there any other comments?
Even if you have Wi-Fi, you still don't get 100% attendance. And people who have it still duck out this day or that.
We've had pretty good attendance. Often, we get reported that the attendance is pretty good. Over the last couple of years anyway. Certainly not perfect.
And Christine, I think what you were talking specifically about is faculty staff, which I think would be incredibly valuable. A lot of our staff do not live in Jaffrey Range. A lot of them live in very rural areas. So that is if a teacher is expected to serve 90 students in a day, they need to be able to do that. That's, so I think that's a valuable idea.
I know the Jaffrey Public Library loans them out. I don't know if the Renge Library does.
Not yet.
All right. Thank you. Good discussion. Are there any more questions or comments?
No, I agree with what everyone said thus far. I think having the flexibility to manage it is the policy we should have. I don't see any benefit to restricting it to one or the other, and just go from there. I think carrying forward last year's policy will work.
Good. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So, thank you everyone for the discussion, and let's move on to policies.
Quick question.
Oh, yes, Juno.
Can I just make a quick communication related plug since it's kind of related?
Yes.
Okay, so this is also relevant to the school board. I'll put this up. This is available on our website right now. Just went live today. So as a part of School Messenger, we're moving forward. We had this discussion at last meeting or the meeting before about what we're trying to do with School Messenger. If you go to the news section of our website, you can read through this yourself. But we are now in a place again where we're asking people to go into School Messenger to set their communications preferences. There are instructions linked here that can help show you how to do that. So all you school board members, in order to log in, you would use your school district provided email. You set up an account through School Messenger. You can then set your communications preferences. So if there is like a snow day or something like that, you're going to be able to get all of those messages. You can choose whether you want it as a phone call, whatever. You can make sure that those phone numbers are correct. If you are a parent, you would also have a parent profile that you would be able to set up as well. I would encourage you to set up both because you may want different messaging based on what role you have. You will notice that there is an option where you can elect to receive text messages. We haven't made that service live yet because there are a few more steps and a little bit more education we have to prepare to get people to do that. But within maybe the next month or so, we should be able to offer text messaging as an additional option for these types of notifications. But with, us approaching kind of snowy weather, winter weather, other things where this messaging becomes more important, I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to try to go in, set up those preferences, make sure you have a good phone number in there, make sure you have a good email, make sure everything's set up the way you want it to be. Obviously, again, other communication is also going to roll through this program as well eventually. But this is a good first step opportunity, get your foot in there. Eventually this kind of app, this login is going to have a lot more of a role in the district in terms of communication. So trying to kind of slowly roll it out, give people a concept in certain areas, and we'll make more features go live over the next probably throughout the end of the school year. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on this message. This is up on social media. It's up on the website. It got emailed out today. So again, just encouraging all board members, all staff members, all parents, guardians to go in. It's whatever email that you gave us in Alma or whatever staff email. I'm really encouraging staff members because the way that their information has been imported in right now in School Messenger, we only have an email address. So if a staff member does not log in and set those preferences, we don't actually have a phone number to reach you at this point in time. So it is really important that staff members, and then like I said, board members, since you're kind of considered a staff member in the system right now, that you go in and you set those preferences, because if not, we only have an email address in there for you. So.
Okay, thank you, Juno. And Juno, did you say you sent out emails today?
Yep, so that was emailed out today. It should have been received to everybody. I think the board should have even received it. I think it went out at 2:00 maybe. And then, like I said, it went up on social media recently. It's been up on the website for at least a couple hours, but yeah, it should be in multiple places wherever people want to access it.
Okay. So if anybody needs assistance with that, we know where to get a hold of Juno and encourage everybody to do that. Okay, let's move on to our policy discussion. And Lisa, would you like to lead that for us?
Sure. So KCD, public gifts and donations, needed some editing from the first reading, just in numbers. Carrie helped me, thank you, Gino. If you scroll down a little bit, there are some edited numbers just for clarity. This is now a state change, to the 20,000 or more shall require a board hearing. I think, help me remember, I think it was 10,000 or 5,000 that we needed a hearing for. I think it was 10. So now it's doubled. And really what this does is, say, okay, so as a good example, in today's consent agenda, there was a donation, from the Women's Club of a $200 gift card to the RMS Health Office. Thank you so much, Ringe Women's Club. That's awesome. But in the future, that would not come before the board because it would be under $499. So this simply designates which gifts really are appropriate to come before the board, which can be accepted by the superintendent, which can be accepted by a teacher. Yeah, so a teacher could accept some Kleenex and that's okay, or some crayons, and that's now doesn't have to go before the board. So this is, yeah.
All right. So thank you, and this is our second reading. So does anybody have any questions about this policy? No? Okay, so then can we have a motion to
I make a motion to approve policy KCD regarding public gifts and donations.
thank you, Daisy. And a second.
I'll second.
And thank you, Christine. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? No, so that carries 7-0. Thank you. And then,
All right, DJH, staff recognition, is a major change to the previous policy of the vendor rental. We've renamed it. We have gone over it and come to a unanimous on the policy committee, unanimous agreement that this policy covers the areas of concern of all parties that we're seeing right now. Maybe you guys have other pieces that we're not seeing. But we believe that this will address the need for accountability and monitoring of where taxpayer funds go. When not directly serving one-to-one students, that there is a broader need, but that we also need to be extremely responsible in monitoring that. And as well give some guidelines on how the money can be spent and who designates that money through the budget. So we feel that this kind of covers the areas that we had some specific concerns with. If you could scroll down, Juno, please. It's important to note that these are not all-inclusive bullets, just guidelines. So these are, should you need some specifics, this would be the place to go, and that we are trusting our district staff to be very cognizant of these guidelines. And I hope that we don't have to look at this again for a very long time. That would make me sad. So that would mean that something went wrong. So let's hope that this works.
all right, thank you, Lisa.
Mhm.
That's great. Comments or questions about this? Okay, so seeing none, can we have a motion? Does someone like
Make
to-
a motion to accept policy DJH.
ADH, okay, thank you, Lisa. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. That was Daisy. Thank you, Daisy. And all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Abstain? Okay, that carries 7-0. And thank you, Policy Committee, for your work with this. All right, let's move on to board committee updates. And if it's okay, I know this is kind of stepping out of order, but Facilities Committee has not met since our last meeting. So we don't have an update today, but we will presumably prior to our next meeting.
Policy Committee was not able to have a full meeting. We are going to attempt Monday, the 13th, at 5 p.m.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. What about wellness?
The Wellness Committee met. It was actually a really fun meeting. We have a new RING member who's seems fantastic and has some great ideas. We reviewed Walk to School Day, and it was a success, and we talked about how to expand upon that success. So we'll continue with that. And I don't know if we could talk about, and we came up with some other ideas. We're trying to figure out what to do next now that we have a wonderful food service company. What is our next real goal? But it was a good meeting.
Okay, thank you for that update. And let's see. Has education?
We meet Thursday. This week,
This coming Thursday,
Yes.
okay?
I believe the Finance Committee met. And as an outcome, they scheduled the preliminary budget reviews for each department. I believe they start tomorrow. And then there's another one on 16th. Hopefully by then we'll have some recommendations for the board relative to the budget.
Great, thank you, Charlie. Good deal. And let's see, what else am I leaving out?
Goals has not met.
Goals is not met. Communications,
We have not met. We usually meet quarterly. There was an outcome in that we wanted to create a survey. I've received feedback from that. I'm hoping to have the survey complete tomorrow to send back to the communication committee, so that we can try to gather some data for future goals and whatnot.
okay, thank you, Juno. All right, if I've not left anything out, then I think that takes care of our board committee updates, which would bring us to public comments, second section.
So once again, we are at public comments. We still do have both an in-person and a remote audience. So just really quickly, you raise your hand either in person or remotely. If you're remote, you do that at the bottom of your screen. I can acknowledge you. First name, last name, town of residence. And here's the policy. So just make sure you're adhering to that policy.
Hopefully you've got a big screen or you can expand the text. Good, thank you, Juno. So we'll give people a couple of minutes to see if anyone wants to raise their hand. And after we finish with public comments, our second opportunity, then we'll go on to board matters. And so just while we're waiting, does anybody have anything for board matters that they'd like to introduce tonight? Yes, Lisa.
So on October 14th, I attended the New Hampshire School Board Association Delegate Assembly. And that was very interesting to go to. Oyster River was this year's school board of the year winner. And when that happens, they do a presentation. And so they presented for an hour about some of the upgrades that they've been doing to in many different areas of their district. And one of them was a facilities upgrade where they built pretty extraordinary new buildings with a parking lot that is completely near, like at least 50%, it looked to me, solar paneled roof. In their parking lot, much like Haywood Hospital would look. That's their parking lot. I'm like, oh, I like that. But they did some really cool things. They did their facilities upgrade without state aid. And pretty much blew us away. And so that was really interesting to hear their progress. That was a neat presentation. The resolutions that were brought forth. It's an interesting system that they do. And Christine, thank you for yours. I followed the line of anybody who emailed me. That was pretty much in line with I raised my hand for the ones that you guys all had concerns on and so followed what I believe the board did. But I would recommend next year that the board please look at that more, both as what resolutions they could bring forth. And because I think 7 districts out of the 40 something brought a resolution forth, multiple resolutions. And what happens when a resolution is passed is that it's year 1 of a 3-year process to actually put it into the New Hampshire School Board resolution book. Like it's nothing that we voted on this year is going to go anywhere until 2 more years of voting on it. And then it becomes something that we say, yes, we really mean it, and they advocate for it at the state level. So that's that process. It was unusual. So yeah, that was a neat thing to take part in. I hope that next year that we participate a little more actively in that, because it was interesting.
Great, thank you, Lisa.
Mhm.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? Then I'm gonna jump in with one that I just wanted to ask Ruben's help with. Gave a very thorough superintendent's report on some important issues. But one item that we didn't touch on is the ongoing work relating to the career and technical education program and the effort that the district is making to receive money from the state. They have said that there's an opportunity for 75% grant money to expand, renovate, upgrade the career and technical education programs in our 3 district CTE association, which includes Messina, Conval, and Jackfrey Range. And there have been a number of meetings held with staff as well as with members of the community.
Mhm.
And Ruben, I don't know if there's anything that you can just share with us just to bring us a little bit up to date. Probably should have asked you this during your report. I apologize.
Yeah, so we last week, we did have a couple meetings last week actually on this, including a 202 meeting, and we talked about some of what we learned at those meetings. So we, well, let me go forward a little bit first. First of all, January 1st, we are to have our application into the state that lists what type of programming we are seeking to add, keep, along with drawings, basically, architectural drawings of what it would look like or could look like, along with supplies. A lot of this is estimated at this point in time. Costs would be estimated, because you're looking at really 2 years out for this to be approved and paid for if it is approved. And so this application has been fairly thorough. We have some examples from other places that have been accepted and awarded. So we have those that have been provided to our architects that we're working with, as well as our internal team here. Actually meeting with Jen Kiley, the director, tomorrow around 11 o'clock, or Wednesday around 11 o'clock, in order to update her where we are at and to find out where she can help support us with anything that maybe they've learned over with their work over at Conval or the Scenic. I've been in contact with Dr. Martin over there, the superintendent, to see some of their drawings. There's a survey that has gone out to our school community to gather input. And that's really from the part of the architectural organization that's looking at the educational side, not just the physical architecture. And so that will be out for another 4 days and be collecting information. I'll probably send another reminder, but it has gone out via email and also on our Facebook as well, so that people can go and answer that survey. That allows individuals to provide input and also to learn a little bit more. There's a little video in there to talk about what our process has been so far. The areas that we are looking at are public safety, culinary arts, and the cosmetology. Those would be potential new add-ons. They are the public safety exists in part already over at Conval, but this would be rounding it out. Currently there is no cosmetology or culinary arts in this region. You do have both of those over in Keene. That's a little bit of a hike for a school day going back and forth, and we're not part of their center. We have sent individuals in the past over there when people have wanted programming. And they've been pretty good about accepting us over there when we do send some individuals over. This proposal will also include a renovation or new construction for the existing program that we do have, which is the construction trades. And so that, of course, is the facility would be to enhance what we are doing to provide a lot more space. The numbers for that space really seem to be about tripling kind of the square footage of what is currently there.
Do you mean for all of these,
Just for that one program,
just for the
construction trades.
construction trades?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you'd be looking at spaces that are much higher, so you could build up. You look a lot more square footage this way, so that you can have stations for electrical, for plumbing, for carpentry, and so forth.
Wow.
Masonry. And then you have a separate classroom as well. All of these spaces with separate classrooms, which right now they don't have anything separated in that space. The scope of work was for them to look at the feasibility of whether this programming could be done out on our property on Route 202. And then also, is it feasible to put something here, whether it be renovating existing space, building new on this property, or a combination of those. Though we don't have anything set in stone as of right now, we should within the month to have a lot more clarity. Is that through our conversations, I think that I'm very certain they believe there's a feasible option for this site right here. They certainly believe that there is a possibility for what could be done new out there. There is a hinting that the price difference would be significant. And certainly any work that would be done out on Route 202 would involve things to consider about transportation. And along with transportation, in general, just having a road access to be in that location, parking lots. Then you'd have water, sewer, electricity, everything would have to be done from the ground up right there, literally the ground up, and have to grind up some of the ground actually and spread it out and do a lot of work there, site work. It would be really neat, the place, if we were to do something there, having walked the property with the architect, we looked at where it would be, we could have an amazing view of the mountain, we have the lake on the other side, there could be some really neat work that will be done out there. That being said, even talking with the Route 202 committee, if there's a feasible way to have it right here where the
On this site.
infrastructure is already on this site, that is more desirable. Most likely to put that in front of the voters or to fund it in other ways.
In recognition that the cost to the voters would be far less if it can be done here on this
Far
side.
less.
Right.
So we're waiting for more information for initial drawings and that's.
Where's there room here for that? I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of parking lot.
That's what we need to, find
The
out.
architects will be coming back with a proposal.
Yeah.
And so that proposal may surprise us all, or maybe it will make perfect sense. And then we'll have to look at it and see, does it make sense? And is it something that our community's interested in?
Certainly, if you were to expand, you have to give up something,
Mm,
right? So some possibilities could be obviously tearing down the existing spot right over there for the construction trades and building out this way and having,
oh, I know where we are. Okay, yeah, I get where you're.
sorry, or at one point we had an architect look at building, looking into what it would take to build an auditorium, an arts auditorium, and they built that going out this way from the center of the front entrance of this school, so it went all the way almost to the parking lot. So there's that space, so you give up your lawn. I suppose if I were to look at this campus, looking at that side of the building where the basketball court is outside and the kind of area where the middle school learners have their recess, there's the courtyard, there's space there for something perhaps. And there was conversation at the last meeting about it not all needing to be in the same location. So for instance, you might want your culinary arts and your cosmetology to be more outward facing to the community so that I would have access to, like, so for restaurants.
Yeah.
Or anything of that nature, whereas the other, we may not need to have that, it can be kind of tucked back
Yeah.
somewhere, so. Or you could go, like, if we're at the 202, you talk about building one big building.
Right.
Is there any thought, I know it's been tossed around mostly by John, that now that Jaffrey owns the property down here, that big factory, that they just bought, is there any thought that, because it's within walking distance, that could be something that we participate in or utilize of some kind? I don't know if they're already intending, there's housing, which makes sense, but I don't know,
I think we have to look at things like that. I don't believe the architects are looking at that specifically. But one thing that we do know, and there was a meeting last week at which the selectmen did agree to take that WW Cross property. I think there are concerns there that is a Superfund site and that the process of taking that on the part of the town is going to involve remediation, which is, it'll be a multi-year process.
I think Mr. Flowers and the audience had that comment.
Yes.
If that would be permissible.
Yeah, sure, because we're in public comments, please.
Nathan Flowers from Jaffrey. I was just gonna make a comment on what you were asking about that, because I was at a select board meeting as well. Is there's gonna be they were gonna put in a proposal to get funding to clean up the area. And that's gonna take a long time, like you said, a few years to even figure out what they're gonna do. And there's not even there's an option that we might not even be able to do too much with it as for the town wise, so. That's something that, yes, if we're able to put a lot of housing on it or put anything on it, maybe the school board can talk to the town on. There's no plans right now specifically what to put there. More worried about the different prices we're looking at. Less than $1 million up to $3 million of funding to completely clean up that whole area. For some of the stuff they looked at, there's some bad stuff in the ground. So,
I
yeah,
appreciate that. Thank you.
that was it.
Okay, thank you. Nathan.
Yeah, I think overall, getting back to the CTE subject, the good news too, as far as the timeline is concerned, right, we're able to confirm that, this is something that we are kind of on track as far as submitting our proposal for the first of the year. And then there's really like an evaluation period with the state, and then we wouldn't bring that to ballot until 2025. So it's good that we have clarity around that. So there is time. So probably a lot of whatever we get, at the end of the month, I'm sure that is going to be nowhere close to what we finally propose. I'm guessing there's probably a lot of iterations. I'm guessing first internally and then with the state as far as, what is favorable, for them and us. I get the impression there's a bit of a give and take, a back and forth. So I think that we're on track. If we submit a solid application on January 1st, or whenever it's due, I wouldn't expect I would be surprised if that was the end result. I think there's probably going to be a lot of back and forth in between now and then. So I think that's the impression that I got is the point of the process, right? To come up with a solution that's, best for us and aligned with what the state is looking to do. In the money that the state has.
Yes.
Between all the other systems. So no, I was pleased with the updates in the last few meetings.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah,
I have a
Good
question.
points. Yes.
Just want to clarify. So 75% of the funding would come from the state for renovation or for new construction. Would that include road, parking lot, site work, or would it just on the 202 land?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. It's disappointing. I've really come to see that.
Yeah.
The possibility of that building being on 202 as being a real community asset, and at some point in time, our towns need a community building that is not owned by the school. I don't know when we'll get there, but just want to put that out there.
Thank you. And Christine, the Route 202 committee that had been meeting, looking at various options, not only CTE, but solar and outdoor education, all that. They were presented with some of this data by Ruben after the meetings with the architects. Again, we don't have anything finalized, but what we're seeing is that because those road and water and sanitary things would not be included, we think that Route 202 is not the place to build. However, the committee was unanimous in expressing the view that that land should be kept for the district, that it's a unique resource, and that we very likely will have a need for it at some point in the future.
Yep.
We do have a number of schools that are quite old and that at any time could need to be replaced. And so
I agree with that.
That was the opinion of that group.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ruben, thank you for that update. That was great, very comprehensive and appreciated. Okay. I think we only have one item left on our agenda. It's item number 13.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
I second.
Jen. And thank you, Daisy. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.